people will join us as we go along. We are officially the rolling tour guys, so we'll do some introductions first. I will start by introducing everybody on the bus at the moment. So we will start with our bus operator. We have Jack Sawinski. He is our safety education and training supervisor here at Shoreline Metro. He's been a supervisor for the last couple years, and he is going to be our honorary tour driver today. Jack has done these quite frequently for not only leadership, but also city tours with Chad, Dane, the mayor, etc. So he is well experienced in these tours. Morning. Next, I'd like to introduce Dane Chekalinski. He is the executive director of the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation. Dane joins us today and will give what is guaranteed to be an absolutely thrilling and awesome development update. So say hi to everyone, Dane. Hi. All right, cool. All right. And then, like I have said before, Chad will be joining us. We'll do a little bit of introduction once we get Chad on board. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Derek Mink. I'm the transit director for the city of Sheboygan, actually transit and parking director for the city of Sheboygan. Been in my capacity now 8 years with the city. And I will be your photographer, I guess, videographer today. Very amateur, so bear with me. But I did promise Nan that I would try to absorb all the potholes and bumps along this tour. So hopefully we don't have any this going on while we're driving. First and foremost, I guess we'd like to kick things off by doing a little bit of an introduction or a little bit more of an overview on public transit here in Sheboygan. In light of the COVID-19 outbreak, public transit now more than ever has been a critical service and an essential service to the city and its residents. And I should stand corrected, we do have a urban transit system, urbanized transit system that also services Sheboygan Falls and Kohler. So I just wanted to give an update that we are alive and well and running. We are running a reduced service at the moment, but we do maintain public transit service Monday through Friday, 5:45 to 5:45 p.m. Our Saturday service has been reduced to demand response only at this time, but we are doing our part to ensure those that need to get out and make essential trips for medical, for shopping, for work especially. We're ensuring that those individuals have access to transportation during this time. So that's critical. We are also taking some extra special measures such as extensive cleaning on our buses. You know, one might think that we are a rolling virus trap when in fact we are not. We are probably one of the more cleaner places you can be at the moment. So, you know, public transit is alive and well. We're doing great. We continue to provide a vital service for our customers. So if you know anybody that's questioning whether or not we're running or what we're doing, follow us on our website or our Facebook page. So with that, I would like to introduce Chad Pelishek, who has joined us. Modern technology is great. We were able to hunt him down without the use of police force. So I'd like to introduce Chad Pelishek to you guys. Hi, Chad. Hi. Chad is the city's planning director. He's joining us today to, again, with Dane, give some insight into developments that are happening in and around the Sheboygan area. Chad has been with the city for many, many years. Between the two gentlemen, they single-handedly have been involved in many of the large projects that you have seen over the last 5-6 years in the city of Sheboygan and surrounding areas. A lot of the housing development you're going to see today, you're going to get an update on that, but Chad's really been focused on making Sheboygan, the city of Sheboygan, a better place, not only for residents, but for businesses and visitors as well. So with that, we are going to get rolling, pun intended. So again, you're not going to get to see my ugly face all that much today, but I'm going to narrate a little bit while we get rolling here. We have a map that we're going to hopefully try to follow to the best of our abilities. When we ride, I'm going to be turning the focus over to Dane and Chad at strategic locations along the route. I'm also going to do my best to show you video that we are at. Actual stops and breaks. The bus can, in fact, be a little noisy, so we want to be respectful of our presenters as well as my ability to hear you guys with questions. So I will interject every once in a while and ask for questions. But I assure you we're going to get to quite a few places on this tour. Those places will include South Pier, the Innovation District, the Art Preserve, many of the housing projects that we have started in the city of Sheboygan, and then as well as some other developments that are in the works as well. So if you can, please just hold on to your questions. I'm sure we will get to those locations along the way. So honestly, most of the tour, I'm going to be showing you probably the road in which we're driving. There won't be a whole lot of interaction until we get to some of the places that our presenters are going to talk about. So just bear with us, and you get to come along for a scenic ride. All right. So hang tight. We'll be with our presenters as soon as we get to South Pier.
It's a pretty smooth ride.
For those of you that, I'm going to have the tablet muted, but I noticed that there were a couple comments. If you've ever wanted to be a bus driver, this is the bus driver's view. So this is literally right up where the driver is sitting, and you're getting a first-hand perspective of being a public transit driver. What? All right, guys, while we're waiting to get to the end of South Pier, just wanted to give a interjection here. We are actually driving what is known as the Shoreline Metro trolley route, or in our terms, Route 40. Our Route 40 or trolley route is a seasonal route that is available basically really after Memorial Day all the way through Labor Day, with service on the 4th of July. This route was put into play maybe about 5 years ago. About 3 or 4 years ago, we purchased trolleys that we actually utilize on this route. This route has become very popular amongst all of our tourists that come to our community.
950, the lunchtime driver.
We've had increases in ridership every year that we've run this route. It's very popular amongst families that come in with charter fishermen. It's also very popular amongst families that just get away for the weekend, maybe staying at Blue Harbor and things. So this is actually the route that we're going to be driving for the first part of this tour is actually our tourist route. So we are coming up to South Pier. We are actually at the end of the Circle Drive of South Pier. We are going to pull over for a second here in a little bit, and our presenters are going to give you an update as to what this project is.
Here, okay. And then I think the easiest might be there to get out and for us to get out of the bus and just go and stand over here so you can kind of show this area.
He's rolling. I don't know if
He's backing up. Oh.
This is probably 55
let me get. Took out the curve.
no problem. When you have big tires, you don't know what it feels like.
How's this? This good?
This is good. So if you haven't been to South Pier recently, we're at the end of the cul-de-sac where the South Pier breakwater starts, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has allocated federal funding to repair the pier. So South Pier will be closed to the public for the next 3 years, starting this summer. They're going to be doing this in a 2-phase construction project where the first phase is to repair the pier further out towards the end of it by driving sheet pile on each of the breakwaters, sides of the breakwater, and filling it in with concrete. And then the second phase of this project is to repair the pier basically from a midpoint to by this bathroom facility that the city owns. This is around a $25 or $30 million project. The Corps dedicated funding because the pier is in such tough shape and it's at a risk of failure. They rate their piers on an A through F scale, and they graded this pier as a letter F, and hence the reason why they've dedicated money to repairing this. So you're going to see a lot of activity. This area will be closed off. There's challenges with events and fireworks and all of that stuff that's getting worked through, but those things will be worked out, and stuff will still go on, but there'll be a lot of construction activity on the end of the pier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stand.
So just to talk a little bit about South Pier, for those that aren't familiar, it was a former brownfield site that was being a contaminated site that was owned by Sea Rice Coal Company back in the 80s and 90s, and the city bought it in early 2000 and renovated it to what you see here today. So this is a multi-phase plan that includes commercial along the water and residential in the intersection. So we're going to, from this point, we're going to go down and talk about the Portscape apartments. We're going to talk about the new condo development and some of the other activities that are happening on the peninsula.
I'll just add to that. And for those of you who don't know the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, just so you know, we are a nonprofit with the sole mission of trying to grow the local economy. We do that through several different means, but in terms of development and partnerships, I think South Pier helps define that more than just about any other major project in the community. Back in the 90s, as Chad said, this was coal piles. By the mid 2000s, early 2000s, the city put together some money in coordination with local business owners to physically buy the property and start redevelopment. All that started about 2005, 2004, somewhere in there. And it's taken through the recession and beyond to get to this point. But when we talk about development and, oh, why isn't this done? Why isn't that done? Just know that from the day a developer calls us, even if they buy the property that day, you're still looking at a 2-year construction cycle. So development takes time and persistence. And I think South Pier is a perfect example of what happens when you stay focused over decades. So, yeah, let's go check out some of the latest stuff.
Does anybody have any questions regarding South Pier for Chad or Dane at this point? Great. All right, we're gonna keep rolling then.
Anyway, we pulled over at this location. So this location, if you can't tell, is basically across from the Parker John's restaurant. The reason we're at this location is because twofold. I don't know if you've been down to the river lately, but you know that if you have been, you'll see that the lake levels are super high. So the challenge the city faced this year with water levels being as high as they are, they weren't able to put all the docks in for the commercial fishermen. So no docks will be put in on the riverfront side, that the Parker John side of the river. Only docks on this side of the river, South Pier, will be installed. The rest of these docks will be moved to a parking lot that the city owns. And then this site where these docks are right now will ultimately be used as a phase 2 staging area for this pier construction. So when they bring in another contractor in the end of the year, they'll use this as their area to stage the stage their construction work. What we have across the road is the Portscape Apartments. Everybody has, probably seen those if you've been to South Pier. These apartments are normally full. They typically have about 70% empty nesters living in them, and 30% young professionals is kind of their mix. 1 and 2 bedroom townhomes with garages and those types of things, and are historically full. So we talk a lot about housing, and Dane can talk about it as well, but housing is a key component in talent attraction and talent recruitment to get people to move here for jobs and live here. So we'll talk as we go along on some of the studies that the city and the EDC have partnered on and what those studies have told us as it relates to housing.
Sure. The housing piece, just to build on that, we started that effort probably back in 2014 when we issued our first multifamily housing study. And so kind of our MO is we talk to a lot of companies across the county. And what we kept hearing again and again and again was, hey, I'm trying to bring talent to this area, but they cannot find a place to live. So our very first study done in spring of 2014 showed we called up every major apartment in the county, asked them how many vacancies do you have? And the answer across the county, Sheboygan Falls, and Plymouth, was 13 available apartments. And I can tell you that some of those apartments had waiting lists longer than 13 people deep. So we were absolutely full. And based on that study, what we had to do was go out and try to find interest to develop units in a market that, quite frankly, hadn't had a unit built since 2007. And every year during the recession, construction prices kept going up and up and up, 5-6% every year. So which meant that in order to make sense of a new apartment, the rents had to be more than $1,000 a month. But the only apartments we had online were about $850 a month. And if anyone in the banking world knows, when an appraisal comes in, they base it on what is existing. So there was a huge, huge gap in terms of financing, and that's where the city's incentives and those early projects really came in handy. So essentially, we had to prime the pump to get the market back to where it should be. And so since then, we've been on a tear. We probably had about 800 apartment units built across the county. We probably have another 200-300 proposed or under construction at various stages, and we'll probably see some of those projects. But multifamily, I think, has been a significant success because people, when they move to an area, tend to want to rent before they own. And if we want people to live here long term, we have to have them land in something that is existing and nice. And so, at Sheboygan County, I remember in 2014, 2015, all of our contemporaries across the state kind of laughed at us. Said, "Why are you focusing on housing? That doesn't make any sense." Well, guess what? Now they're all focused on housing. So we were ahead of the curve. And I suspect as we move forward in the future, we'll continue to need to build housing. Our studies indicate that we need probably 250 apartments every year. We need about 250 single homes built every year. And so that's simply what we need to keep the community growing. And even that provides us less than 1% growth rate. So we'll probably have to exceed those numbers. But yeah, we'll talk more about housing as we go and what the studies are telling us. We can even get in rent rates if you want, but ultimately, we view housing as a cornerstone of growing the community.
Can you talk about the results of the condo project? Because we're going to drive by one of Sheboygan's condo projects, but we're not going to be able to stop on the entrance to South Pier. So Dane will talk about the condo study that we did, like the housing study.
Sure. After we got a bunch of apartments going, the next thing we want to turn our sights on were condos. And quite frankly, the reason for condos is that urban living is back in. Condos seem to fill that niche, and we knew that we needed more owner-occupied units. So in 2017, we followed up with a condo study. And the condo study indicated we needed about 320 condo units countywide. They recommended at least half of those go into Sheboygan's urban core, about 160. And so we've had 2 condo projects built since then. We'll see them both on today's tour, but one of them we're going to go past. It's currently under construction. It's from a local developer, Toby Watson. I believe it's 2 phases, 2 different buildings. Only the first building's going up. When that one's essentially full, they'll start on the second building. I think a total of 38.
The first phase is 21, and the price point is about $350,000. So that's the building you see that's under construction when you go over the A Street Bridge on the left side, right at the entrance of South Pier. We'll drive by it shortly, but we won't be able to stop.
And it's going to be interesting to see these condos go in because, you know, brand new condos with available boat docks right on South Pier, right in downtown Sheboygan, I think will be in high demand. So I think this project will be a huge success. I understand they already have several units pre-sold. And I think it's just a testament to what we're seeing overall in this area in terms of growth. You know, you look at even from an environmental standpoint, with 33 units basically within one city block are being contained. If that was a subdivision, that would probably be 20 acres of farm field we'd have to rip up and plow over. And so the amount of housing, when you look at 800 apartment units alone, basically saves us from building probably 160 acres of subdivisions and basically, you know, taking out a third or a half of a family farm. So it's amazing what we can do with density. It's what's in right now, and I think it fits into kind of what we need to do to sustain development in the long run.
All right, we're going to roll as we go past the condo development that Dane and Chad talked about. I will try to get a video shot for you guys. Again, we're going to mute the mic so that we can strategize on our next stop. And we'll be joining you here shortly again when we get back up downtown. We are traveling through downtown Sheboygan right now, and as you saw from my camera angle, you can see hardly any cars downtown. It's quite the sight to see if you haven't been downtown during the pandemic. Not seeing normal businesses open, cars downtown, people walking. It's kind of an eerie sight, but hopefully the pandemic will clear up soon and we can enjoy all that downtown has to offer. We're going to be pulling up to the library plaza and City Green. These are two locations that over the last couple of years have been hotspots, focal points of the downtown, especially City Green. I'm sure most of you guys are aware of the concerts in the park, but maybe most of you aren't aware of the rehabilitation that happened at the Mead Public Library. So we're going to pull up here and pull over, and I'm going to try to get some video of the improvements done at the Mead Public Library for you guys. So I'm going to turn over to Dane and Chad. You're going out?
So most of you have been to City Green, so we're not going to talk about that. The plan is to continue concerts once this pandemic is over. The Art Center's working through that, so we're going to be energizing, this space. There was a number of other events planned. There was a Maker Fair planned here in June that's now been canceled, but you kind of all are, probably very familiar with City Green in that. What I'd like to focus on is the Library Plaza reconstruction project that was just done last year. And as Derek pans over to that area, you can see that there used to be this large concrete area in front of the library that was really underutilized, and we hired an architect, an engineer to give us some plans on what this area could be. So what it's been transformed into is a lot of green and trees, and then these large pillars that you see in front of yourself right now were part of a clock tower that stood on the backside of the fountain that not really too many people were exposed to, but these were art exhibits that were done by a local artist, and they're all around storybook themes, and it's like a bronze casting. And so we took those panels out of that tower and put them into these concrete pillars to kind of portray that art that was created by a local artist. So that's what you see here. There's some blocks for sitting down and plugging your laptop in and charging your phone, and there's Wi-Fi provided by the library and the fountain and all that. So the idea behind this was to re-energize this area and kind of make this Mead Library feel like a town center, if you will, with what we have going on at City Green, and connecting the two of them to kind of energize this space. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on any of this downtown development. If you do, let us know. Otherwise, this is this area that we like to call the City Green Chinatown Center.
Does anybody have any questions for Chad or Dane up to this point? I know some of you guys are messaging on the screen and I'm not able to catch all those all the time, but if you do have a question, let me know.
I had a question regarding Pier 17. I saw that it was up for sale. Is there a buyer for that spot? I was surprised to see it go. That seemed like a pretty hot spot on the river.
At this point, I would say there is no buyer. There's been some interested parties. Nobody has actually submitted anything. I'll be honest with you, I don't know why a business can't make it in that location. I don't know if it's the amount of head count and seats that it takes to fill that up to make the numbers work, but there has been interest in redeveloping it for things other than a restaurant, but nothing is concrete at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. All right, guys, we're going to be coming up to 710 apartment complex. Just want to give a note that I believe it's next Thursday. Maybe Nan can clarify. Next Thursday, I believe you guys are going to have a half-hour Zoom on 710, which may include a walkthrough tour of this apartment. This was originally part of our day. We were hoping to take you guys through on a live tour. Unfortunately, you know, our world's changed now, so we're going to do a virtual outside tour followed by some additional information. So again, I'm going to turn this over to Chad and Dane, and we're going to talk about 710.
So 7th and Penn development was developed by Cardinal Capital. It's 66 units with ranges of rents in about 900 to, I don't know, 1,700 or 2,500 or something. Anyway, so depending on where you are in this, it obviously, as you get higher up, has beautiful lake views. This was a project that Sheboygan County needs to be credited on. They were the ones that owned a parking lot here. They bought some additional houses. They tore them down and sold the property to a developer to kind of help with the economic development piece of gaining some additional tax base. This is one of the few projects that's not in a TIF district. And I don't know how many people know what TIFs are, but TIFs are the primary function for funding a lot of these developments. So this is a project that's strictly on the tax base. It has received no TIF incentives, but it's a project that has taken advantage of what's known as an opportunity zone, and that's a tax break based on capital gains taxes and federal taxes for the future. So this is a project that before it opened, it was almost full. Right now, the 66 units are full. They're just finishing up the exterior construction and should have full occupancy within the next few months. So this is just one of the most recent housing developments.
Sure, and this one is a little bit more unique in the fact that it does have some commercial space that I do believe that they're still looking for tenants. This particular developer, Cardinal Capital, is primarily does workforce housing or tax credit housing, Section 42. I believe this was their first market rate unit that firm has built in a very, very long time, and we're very blessed to have it here. They're so enamored with what's happening in Sheboygan County that they have another project in the city of Sheboygan Falls. So if anyone saw the apartments going up in downtown Sheboygan Falls along the river, it is the exact same developer. That one had to use TIF district to get it off the ground to close a gap. And so, you know, their style of construction is very urban, tall, underground parking. I think exactly the type of amenities we're looking for in this area. We hope that Cardinal has a lot of success on these two projects, because if they fill up very fast, you can bet that they'll be back at the table. So as much as we want to see developers continuing to build, we want to see all these units filling, because honestly, that's the best way. Once a developer has a successful project, they usually like to continue to do it. So I think, again, another testament to kind of that urban draw. And as more and more density builds up in our urban cores, I think we'll see more and more retail shops and life in our downtowns. And obviously, Sheboygan's had a really good renaissance in the last couple of years. I just wonder how far we can push that, how cool we can really make it. So what I know about 7 and Penn. And I would echo Chad's comments. The county really did help out. They bought four buildings right in the road, knocked them down, and sold it at a good price to a developer.
So from here, we're going to head to the new Visit Sheboygan Visitor Center at the foot of the A Street Bridge. We'll talk a little bit about that project, and then we're going to head over to where the proposed innovation district is. sorry, we decided to make it a different stop, but you've seen this. This is across from behind Stefano on Pennsylvania Avenue and A Street, basically across from the Salvation Army. There's been Wild Chiropractic was in a building here that was built in the 1960s. It was kind of an ugly building. Stefano owns this property and is working on building his downtown grocery store at this location. So a lot of what he's done during the pandemic is kind of created meals to go and take grab and go type of venues. If you haven't been in his grocery store, it's still open and you can buy his pizzas that are frozen and those types of things. His plan is to expand that service into this downtown grocery store that ultimately will be connected behind the buildings with all of the buildings that he owns. So the El Retrovo, the Field to Fork, he bought the building to the north of him that's going to become the bakery, and then that will tie into this building that will be the grocery store. So this will be Stefano's little complex as it relates to the services that he provides.
All right, and we're rolling.
So we are now in front of the visitor center. You see this when you come down A Street. This building has occupancy, but obviously with the pandemic, everybody's working from home. What this is the Visit Sheboygan tourism entity, which is made up of the city of Sheboygan, the town of Wilson, and the town of Sheboygan's room tax dollars. So if you stay in a hotel and you pay room tax, those get paid to the municipality, and the municipality contracts with Visit Sheboygan to provide tourism services, tourism promotion, and tourism development for the zone made up of those three municipalities. This will house their operations. It will also have in the front where you see the shades pulled in the large room, that will be the Science on the Sphere, which is a 6-foot diameter globe that hangs from the ceiling, and it has 4 projectors that gets real-time data from the federal agency NOAA and projects it on this globe that is in the screen, so you can see current weather patterns and flight patterns and all of that kind of data on this globe. It's an educational tool that will be used for both visitors and local students and educational groups. The plan also is to build what's called Science on the Sky, which would be a projecting pier out into the river that will house an off-the-grid type of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics center that we'll be able to use for teaching younger generations about STEAM education, and where you'd be able to do things like water sampling and learn about Lake Michigan ecosystems and all of that stuff. And then on land between the visitor center and the river will be green infrastructure exhibits based around rain gardens and bioswales and different things that people can do both in their yards and in commercial and industrial developments to cut down on the amount of water that runs into Lake Michigan. So it's going to be used as an educational kind of ecotourism is the newest niche that people are traveling for when we don't have a pandemic. So the idea is you come in, you can experience different things while you're here, and that will be happening in this location. And the plan was to open the visitor center the weekend before Labor Day. I don't know if Memorial Day, I'm not sure if that's going to happen now, and then to have the rest of that work done sometime next year to open by the end of 2021 with those educational things.
Just to Jazzy Lovatis on the success of tourism in this area in Sheboygan County. I think last year, 2018, the last time the numbers came out, Sheboygan County had the highest single increase in tourism spending. I think it increased about 70%, which blew away any other metropolitan area. Obviously, with all the golf courses, if the marine sanctuary comes through, I foresee tourism being a bigger and bigger part of the economy. As a matter of fact, there's one hotel that just finished construction at Fairfield Inn, and then another one that is under construction at Hampton Inn, both within the city of Sheboygan. So obviously we have a hiccup right now with the fires, but I expect tourism to be a bigger and bigger deal as time goes on. Not to mention all the assets on Elkhart Lake, America, and our condos on the side there. So switching gears a little bit, there is another development a little bit further up the hill. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. That is 7 and 10. High Point Apartments. That is 91 units. This to date, that's kind of the largest apartment development in Sheboygan County in a single building. The interesting thing about this project is this one was probably the first development to cross our paths, but there was definitely a lot of hiccups. It changed kind of ownership a couple different times. It's a classic example of how things don't always work out, but luckily one local and some other developers got in there and made the deal happen. The interesting thing about this is people say, how fast are these units filling? This developer planned to take 2 years to fill up their units, and they opened up at the wrong time of the year. If anyone knows real estate, the residential real estate, the best time to open up is spring and summer, because in between school is when everyone seems to move. This one opened up in September, October, and within, they planned 2 years to fill, and within 11 months they were full. And the next day I got called from 2 or 3 of the owners saying, hey, when can we do our next project? So if anyone's asking out there, are these units filling? The answer is yes. I think for the last 2 summers, Sheboygan's gone without large amount of available units in its downtown. So this virus, the demand is absolutely there, and it's likely to be there after all this kind of recovers. So it's great for our area to know that we're a very desirable place to live.
So as we go across the A Street Bridge, sorry, we're moving, so we're hanging on while we're standing, but if you want to talk, Dean, about the Innovation District and that whole thing, and I'll interject.
So hold on, before we get over to Dane here, I just want to let you guys know we were traveling on South A Street. The Visitor Information Center is located at the corner of South 8th Street and Riverfront Drive. Now we are heading down Indiana Avenue. For those that aren't familiar with the Sheboygan city area. So Dane's going to talk about the Innovation District. We are entering that as we speak. And this is a really exciting development for City of Sheboygan. Dane?
Yeah, so we are, the last couple of years, we've been on the path to create what's called the Fresh Tech Innovation District. If you go to freshtechinnovation.org, you'll be able to see the website that kind of outlines the overall master plan. But the whole idea of this started a few years ago. As with the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, one of our core services is entrepreneurship and workforce. And we are, we are big, large companies have a challenge of attracting key talent to this area, primarily engineers, programmers. I'm sure you've all heard what some of those needs are. And we're trying to combine that. So we have these great locally owned firms. That's one thing people always say is a huge strength of Sheboygan County. We have a ton of local owned firms that, quite frankly, are creating a ton of patents. For those of you who don't know, a study came out by the Brookings Institute, and Sheboygan County was named one of the top 20 most innovative communities for the most patents filed per capita. Sheboygan County files more patents per capita than Madison does, and they have the fourth largest research university in the United States. So there's a lot of cool things here, but when I ask, when we ask sort of the business owners, a question sometimes comes up is, that's great, we have an all-star baseball team, but where's our AAA team? Where's our feeder system? And so the idea of developing a live-work environment that tries to attract younger talent and again, play off that kind of that urban trend line, but do it in an area that's extremely affordable, was an idea that was very appealing. So myself, if anyone remember Jim Schusler from Office Chat, we drove, St. Louis, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Indianapolis, basically scoping out what innovation districts are. The idea came to us, and we really loved what we saw. What those other communities were doing in terms of encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation were truly amazing. And so we came back here and we settled on this Indiana Avenue area because one, it's walkable to downtown, two, it's walkable to South Pier, kind of main communities, and an area of the community that needs some TLC. And so one of the very first things that we're trying to do is create what we call an innovation hub. There's two things part of an innovation district. There's the hardware portion, the physical buildings, the assets, the way the sidewalks are laid out, the way the buildings look, what type of labs or innovation maker spaces, things of that nature are out there. But then there's the software programming. How do you animate the space? What type of events are hosted? How do you get people together? How do you get them talking about what they're doing and what's innovative? Because innovations typically happen when you have two people that know their areas of subject really well, and they start talking and realize, holy cow, there's a whole other market here that we didn't quite understand. Everyone has a piece of the puzzle. How do we get those puzzle pieces to line up? And so there's a couple different things happening in this area. The city, the Regional Development Authority through the city has done a great job. They've been buying up some of these homes around here. I'm sure you've seen some demo, essentially about half, about half, 3/4 of the city block is currently owned by the city. We're hoping that this site, we're looking at the former Craft 30 building, will be the site of the main innovation hub. We're working with there's a developer with an agreement with the RDA to develop that. I can tell you we are in federal grant season, and we're going to aggressively try to pursue some. And with some of the CARES Act with this virus, actually some of those programs became extremely generous. And so there's nothing like turning lemons into lemonade, and that's what we seem to love to do.
So just to talk really about physical development, so those of you that may have gone to Craft 30, one of the plans we worked on was relocating Craft 30 into the old Club Michigan building on Michigan Avenue across from Truling, so that they've opened up a nice place up there. The Redevelopment Authority owns this building. We've got a lease with the EDC, the old building down here, and the EDC will be using it. Nick O'Brien will be using it for programming space as it relates to Fresh Tech. As Dane said, we're working with the developer to build the first building that will be a combination of public and private entities in there. The city is purchasing some recreational trail land from Union Pacific, and then across the way here, there's a construction project that Derek will show you shortly, known as Badger State Lofts, which is a conversion of the Badger State Tannery into 118 workforce housing units with rents based from $660 up to $1,000. So we've heard a lot of comments when these luxury apartments have been built about the need for additional affordable housing units in this community. So this is a big project that will fill that need. That's the affordable housing in this development is based on your income, so it's a sliding scale, and that's what you pay for your rent. So it could go down as little as $600 for a one-bedroom apartment, but this will be 118 units with 8,700 square feet of commercial space available. Also happening, the city's improving infrastructure. So the gravel piles and the stuff that you saw early on when Derek scanned, there's a $3.5 million road reconstruction project that will be happening here as soon as the pandemic is done for the next year. So there's a lot going on in this area, and there's a lot of moving parts, but check out the Fresh Tech Innovation website and you'll learn more about this initiative.
And in terms of the software programming, one of the key things is trying to get the innovators together. Every Friday night, if you're interested, if you consider yourself an innovator, there are what we call happy hours on Fridays with everyone cracking a beer over Zoom and talking about things that are going on. So if anyone's interested, feel free to shoot out an email or connect with us. Our website is SheboyganCountyEDC.com. But the idea is that the more people share what's going on, the more information, the more problems get out there, and the more smart people we have in the room, and the more smart people we have in the community, the better we're going to do. And so this is our major play on how do we make sure smart people, creative people want to move into our community. So creating an environment just for them. It's an interesting thing that previous generations, kind of the smartest, they always joined country clubs, Masonic groups, lodges, and they were basically trying to insulate themselves from the rest of the community. It was inclusive or exclusive, sorry. And so our next phase and what we feel the next generation wants is inclusive. So the idea is to create a space for anyone to come to, that they feel welcome, it feels warm. Whether you're someone who has the long hair and with crazy far out ideas can stand next to someone in a business suit and have a conversation as peers. And that's the environment we're trying to create.
So we're heading down North Commerce Street right now. We just passed, the Shoreline Metro Garage. Hurry up, Dave, get it. There you go. Yay. A little plug for Shoreline Metro. We're coming up to Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to cross Pennsylvania, and we're going to head to the former Mayline property. So as we navigate over there, I just want to say that we the city in last year finished a master plan, the Riverbend Neighborhood Master Plan for this area, primarily around the development that you see happening where Doma State Court and Lakeshore Technical College opened up, but more of an expanse of basically from Pennsylvania up to that area. So with the Mayline property being a key location. So Mayline, as you know, has vacated this area. Sold the property to a developer. A developer has now sold it to another developer. And under our master plan, the plan is to basically demolish all of the buildings in this area and redevelop this into senior housing. So the idea that we heard from a lot of our public listening sessions was the seniors want to be as actively involved in the community as our young people. So they had said that they would like to have housing that's capable, that they can afford, close to the amenities in the downtown. And since it made sense that this would be a good location for it, close to the downtown, and give us some opportunity, the city went out and looked for some senior housing developers that we had contact with, and Capri Communities is one that has a number of these type of senior housing developments around the state, with the closest one being in Grafton. Got this property under contract and is currently working through redevelopment plans to hopefully in the later this year or the spring of 2021 start a senior housing development here. And what this will entail is it'll be townhome apartments for 55 and older. It'll have assisted living capabilities and then a memory care facility. So it fits into the model that's known in a livable community as aging in place, and that you can have all the services you need. So that's this location across the river from us. And I don't know, Derek's going to try to zoom in. I don't know if we can zoom in any. You'll see construction going on there, but Van Horn Development is building a townhome apartment development on the former Kingsbury property So that will be 33 townhome apartment units in 3 buildings, kind of in a triangle. And that will hopefully be wrapping up construction this fall. On those buildings, it's about a $6 million project. It's the first development that Van Horn has done of this sort in the community, so we're excited to see that be successful. But if you drive down 10th Street, you see those construction activities going on. That's and they're going to call it Kingsbury Village to tie it to the old Kingsbury development, to the Kingsbury Brewery.
Yeah, and a couple cool things about this development. One, it's a brownfield because it's the former site of the Kingsbury Brewery, but they were actually able to buy the Kingsbury logo and the Kingsbury name. They actually purchased the naming rights.
Coors. No
Yeah,
way.
So that's kind of cool. And if you probably get a tour, they have been handing out bottle openers with the Kingsbury logo on it. So, but ultimately, these are going to be some very high-end townhomes. I think the advertised rates, there's a website out there called KingsburyVillage.com, I think. I want to say they're approaching $2,000 a month, but they're huge units, 2-bedroom with a den, so 3-bedroom units. But again, this is going to push the envelope. What expectations are of new resident rate and take full advantage.
Dean has a question to you. What do these higher rents mean for Sheboygan? You say pushing the envelope, but what does that exactly mean by charging higher rents? Is it?
Sure. Well, Sheboygan County is not unique in terms of what's happening to housing prices across the nation. So I'm happy to send out our most recent housing research, but a couple things are going on. The single-family home developers are pretty excited about higher rent rates because before they were trying to sell homes, new single-family homes, to people that were used to renting $650 apartments. And someone started to pay $1,400, $1,500 for an apartment. Suddenly, purchasing a home in this community is not a huge leap. Obviously, this also means that the individuals are getting this apartment. So what we're seeing in our manufacturers is, one major company has indicated that 10, 15 years ago, they had about 800 people on their factory floor and maybe 200 people in their office and about 1,000 employees. Today, they have about 800 people on their plant floor and about 600 people in their offices. The number, as manufacturers get more and more efficient, of course, a third of our companies are manufacturing. They're not necessarily hiring net new people on the factory floor, but they are hiring marketers, accountants, attorneys, management information systems, data analysts. And so I think we're starting to see the traditional blue collar go a little bit more white collar, and I think it's more prevalent in other parts of the county. But a couple things have happened in terms of other individuals' rents. So, for example, a lot of the existing apartment owners have started to realize that they can probably charge a little bit more in rent, so we have seen those increase. But the amount of increase is still very shallow compared to the nation. So in terms of our affordability, we're still incredibly affordable. But what it means is when you have new construction going in the middle of older communities, it creates brand new kind of comparables that should raise up the rest of the community in terms of its housing stock. So a community can't survive, and I guess this might be more opinion than fact, but it's very difficult for a community to revitalize itself without new construction. Because if there's not new investment, why would an existing property owner think about upgrading their own property? So, I mean, in terms of morale in this area, I've heard nothing but very positive news from a lot of people that are seeing the new construction and starting to believe in this community again. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I have from a development perspective, is that people can see plans, they can see stuff on paper, but once they see construction going up, suddenly the small business owner might hire the next person. They might launch a new product line. The restaurant might expand their hours, right? So I think the biggest thing all this construction means to our community, quite frankly, is optimism for the future. It's hard to be excited about a community if there's nothing going on. So
Great.
So now we're on North 15th Street, and these are the Water's Edge condominium development. This is a two-phase project that is townhome waterfront if you want as part units, and these are about 250 to 300,000. This was done by Paul Weaver and a development group out of Milwaukee. Paul Weaver's a local business person. He also purchased the, as part of this, this was formerly owned by the Richardson Lumber Group, and they owned the Richardson Clearance Center that has now been converted into Dullmus Decor. That's across from us. We'll scan it as we drive by. There's road construction happening, so we're not going to be able to do the same tour. But if you've been in this area, you've seen Lakeshore Technical College. The same developer, Paul Weaver, redid the old boat doctors building on the river. Lakeshore Technical College opened their Sheboygan campus in that location. There's some road work happening this summer at this area with the redevelopment happening, and we're working with Bitter Newman on some renovation of their buildings as well. So you're seeing kind of this new development happening in this older area and more investment happening, and so the city is working hard along with the developers to change what these areas look like.
Sure. I think one of the key parts we're seeing a lot of this development along the river. Back in the 70s and 80s, this was labeled a Superfund site. Matter of fact, warnings went out and don't eat the fish in the Sheboygan River. A lot of that was caused by contamination. Further up in Sheboygan Falls, we had a former Tecumseh, whoever remembers Tecumseh Engines, had a planing plant in Falls. And as was practiced back in the day, they just dumped everything into the river. Rivers, back in the day, one of the reasons why Wisconsin has a lot of manufacturing is it has so many rivers, and they were used as sewers and areas of water and as barge ways. 2012, there was a massive effort to clean up the river. 120 million, kind of led by Sheboygan County, the city of Sheboygan, and the Corps of Engineers. And they basically dredged miles of this river to essentially clean it up. We're hoping that eventually it'll be taken off the Superfund site. But I think that's a core reason. So I think the public perceptions of the river in the last decade have really gone from this sanitary, industrial disaster waste into an asset for the community. And of course, most of the municipalities along the way have added kayak launches and things of that nature. So, I mean, it's all about turning around those perceptions. And in this case, the reality of a very dirty industrial river and turning it into, quite frankly, a recreational asset that development can build along. So it's kind of one of those things that the way we take care of our environment and everything that's going on has a direct impact. So I suspect more and more development will occur along the river in the future.
So this is what he's showing you now is the Dullmus Decor Carpet 1 location. Gary Dullmus, we all know, moved his business from South A Street to this location. It's a beautiful building and a beautiful development across the way here. As Derek goes to the front of the bus, you'll see the Lakeshore Technical College's Sheboygan campus. There's also a tenant moving into the north side of that building along the river. I think it's Warp Dance Studio in Falls is moving into there. The city is also doing a lot of road reconstruction because our utilities are early century roads and stuff. So as new areas develop, that's what happens is infrastructure comes along with it. So a lot of road construction will happen as it relates to redeveloping these older areas. So does anybody have any questions for us? Otherwise, we're going to, not sure, we're going somewhere. Just a second. We're going to head down Indiana. We're going to go down 14th Street to Indiana Avenue, and we're going to head out to the John Michael Fuller Arts Center. But on our way there, we'll keep talking to you so that not dead space. But what I want to talk about is, as we're headed there, is that the city has received some federal block grant dollars as part of the CARES Act for the pandemic to the tune of about $569,000. So just so everybody is aware, if you're involved with a small business that's 5 or fewer employees, we're going to be rolling out a small business relief program for those businesses, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. That would give up to grants up to $15,000 to help cover rent and utilities and working capital concerns while they're shut down or closed for business. So that's one of them. We're also going to be providing some funding to public service entities like the Sheboygan Food Bank and Lakeshore Community Health and some of those organizations that might need some help. So if any of you are tied to small business or know small businesses under 5 employees, we're going to have some funding mechanisms in play. There is funding available at the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, as well as the Small Business Administration has a number of funding sources. And if you need more information or you know people that are asking questions about funding for small business, please go to the SCEDC's website because it's very inclusive, and the Sheboygan County Chamber of Commerce's website. Both of them are very inclusive on the stuff that's available in the public.
So I think now we're going to have about a 3-minute drive or so to the art preserve. I think now is probably a good time just to take a little break. If you guys need to use the restroom and you want to step away, why don't you do that now? We'll mute our camera and we'll rejoin you once we get to the art preserve. All right, guys, we're back. Thanks for hanging with us. We're gonna jump off the bus here and kind of do a little walkthrough of the facility. It's rather large. Those that have been past it knows it's a big facility and rather exciting. Unique architecture. I'm gonna turn this back over to Dane and Chad, who are gonna give us an update on the art preserve.
So, like Derek said, we're at the Art Preserve, which is the John Michael Kohler Art Center's viewable storage location that they built between Sheboygan and Kohler on Indiana Avenue, just by the interstate on some property that they own. They bought from the city that was known as the Schukert Farm. So what this is it will be their location where the Art Center's exhibits are large scale, full size type things. So you might have a full size horse, or you might have a full size house, and they go and preserve these artist built environments all over the United States through the Kohler Foundation. And then they bring them back to Sheboygan, and they historically had stored them in warehouses around the community. And then as they do an exhibit in the location downtown, they would take it out of storage, bring it downtown, set it up, have it on display for a couple months or a year, take it back down, put it away, and you might not see that exhibit for another 7 years. What will happen at this location is all of their storage that's in all these other locations will be consolidated into this one location, and then you will be able to walk in here and see them curating the art while it's on display, and you'll be able to see these exhibits on more of a timely fashion. So what the design of this building is, their architect was Trey's Bird's Workshop out of Denver, Colorado, and the idea behind these large wood structures that you see are mimic the wooded kind of area to tie it into the landscape, because this is where a lot of their artefacts have come from. So the idea behind this was to try to tie this in. So this is built into the hill. This is a 3-story structure. Around $40 million, I believe, is what they've spent on it. And their goal is to open it on August 29th to the public. So they will run both of these locations, the downtown location and this location, and have them open to the public to be able to see their entire art collection that they end up sharing with organizations like the Smithsonian and a lot of those large scale multinational kind of art places. So this is really exciting opportunity. I think, arts has really taken off in this area, arts and culture. And, as a small community of 50,000 in a county of 115,000, we're very blessed to have an organization such as the John Michael Kohler Art Center and the Kohler Foundation that invests a lot in the arts to our benefit. So that's this project. If anybody has any questions, please let us know.
Any questions on the John Michael Kohler Arts Center Preserve? According to the sign, looks like scheduled to open August 29th, 2020. Again, depending upon the current pandemic. All right, we're going to get back on board. Turn it back over to Dane and Chad. We're going to head over to the hospital, the new Aurora Hospital, and acuity expansion.
as we leave the art preserve, so the city had purchased the Sheboygan Farm, which was 180 acres of natural area. And it's interesting that if you go in this area, now it's open to the public because the north half of it, it's divided by the railroad tracks, but the north half of this is owned by Glacial Lakes Conservancy, and it's known as the Willow Creek Preserve. So this, the roughly 120 acres of it on the north side of the tracks, if you are interested in hiking, you can park your car at New Jersey Avenue by Meals on Wheels and go down the hill and walk through that. There's a number of farm fields and connector points and all of that. But once you get back in this area, it's hard to tell that you're even in an urbanized area. There's a lot of wildlife, deer and turkeys and all that kind of stuff. But the Glacial Lakes Conservancy now operates that as a wildlife preserve, if you will, preserve. So it's very similar to Maywood Environmental Park, where it's open to the public and you can go and walk around and use it as kind of an open green space. So the Art Center's plan is to partner with the Glacial Lakes Conservancy and ultimately develop trail systems and install art around that area, that some of the art that would normally be outside, so that they can do like walking trails and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot more to happen with this development with the Art Center in the future, and there's some great plans to incorporate art into natural walking areas and those types of things. We're now heading onto Taylor Drive, south of Indiana Avenue. We're going to pull into University Drive. As we pull in there, Dane will pan over. If you've been in this area recently, the Sheboygan Lutheran is under construction on an expansion to install some computer training labs and a auditorium. So that's what you see being built on the north side of, or the west side of the Lutheran High building at the entrance to UW Green Bay. The timeline on that, I'm not quite sure, but the plan is to make this available to Lutheran schools and the high school in the county to be able to serve as an auditorium venue.
Sure. Another thing that you'll see a lot in this area, especially along Taylor Drive, very prominent with their own bridges, is the county's multi-use or non-motorized transportation system. The Sheboygan County, you may not know, is one of the last non-attainment counties in kind of the United States. Basically means that our air quality hasn't tested up to federal standards, although this year we tested under the federal standards, so the process to remove us from that list. Well, one of the things that it did talk about turning lemons into lemonade was give the county access to a pilot program to install bike trails. And so the county over the last few years is in the process of installing $25 million worth of bike trails. A lot of them in Sheboygan, but they're certainly across the county. I know the county's planning to put one in Plymouth to connect the main Lakeview Trail to the county fairgrounds. Is the next set of trails that are going to be going in. But Sheboygan County is starting to get a reputation as a bicycle-friendly community. Even at the transit station, you guys now carry bikes. You now have bike racks on your system. The city's installed numerous pumping stations and bike maintenance facilities. And so again, trying to play off of more and more people want to be in outdoor recreation. I think this area has done a fantastic job at supplying a lot of those amenities. And that's just one example. Actually, if you want to take a look here, if you haven't been up by UW Green Bay, Sheboygan campus, is Bookworm Gardens. And this is a nonprofit. They have 6, 7, 8 acres. And they basically have a botanical garden based on children's books. So you can read the books, sit in the botanical garden, and it's 100% free. I want to say this is like the #2 most visited site probably in the Sheboygan area in terms of tourism. It's really fantastic. Hopefully, once we're over this school, get out there and visit it. Even if you don't have kids, it's just awesome to see. So
I just want to interject real quick, Dane, to go back to your point about the non-motorized. Dane hit on the fact that the city and Shoreline Metro purchased some bike fixation stations. that are actually strategically placed along some of the non-motorized paths in the Sheboygan area. We have one downtown at our transfer station. We do have one out at Evergreen Park. There's one down across from the YMCA on the trail along the lake, and there's one out by Kohler Credit Union on the path that goes along Taylor Drive. So we've made some investments and encouraged individuals to use non-motorized trails. These bike fixation stations are basically an all-in-one repair station where you can pump up your tires. You can do a fix of a flat tire. It's got all the tools necessary to do those types of repairs on your bikes. One additional thing before we get up to
we need to say that we have to say that our sponsor AARP Livable Communities, we received a grant for that from them. We need to highlight.
That's a great point. I think I want to talk about really quick too is that talking about non-attainment and having federal opportunities to purchase equipment. We were actually able to purchase this bus, 5 of them as a matter of fact, through a federal grant called the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Control Grant. We were fortunate enough to get 4 buses funded through that, another bus is funded through another grant, and we are on our way to having 5 more funded through this grant program that we would have delivered in the next 3 years. So we've really taken advantage of that in Sheboygan to bring some of those federal grants to us to encourage non-motorized or alternative transportation. So we are at the Aurora Hospital. I'll turn it back over to Chad and Dane.
So if Dane wants to look out the window and we'll talk while you're, so this is the close-up of the $324 million Aurora Medical Center, Sheboygan County. This will replace the Memorial Hospital that you see on North Avenue today. I think their goal is hoping to move into this thing sometime in 2022. This will basically be in a hospital and a separate medical office building. What you see in front of you is really the hospital. This is a major development for the county. It's huge, and we're fortunate that they were able to find a location on I-43 within close proximity of the city. I would say that this development is not in the city. This development is actually in the village of Kohler. At the intersection of Union Avenue and Taylor Drive, there's 4 jurisdictions that make up that area, including the city of Sheboygan, the county of Sheboygan, the town of Sheboygan, and the village of Kohler. So it's an interesting area. This property was owned by the Kohler company. They ground leased it to Aurora, Advocate Aurora, and hence the development of the hospital. So the plan is the city does have a redevelopment agreement. We get a lot of questions on what will happen to the old hospital on North Avenue. We have a redevelopment agreement that states that after Aurora vacates that and takes occupancy of this new hospital, that they need to hire a planning firm to plan out what that area is going to be up on North Avenue. And then they need to also either demolish the hospital or put $3 million into an escrow account that a developer can demolish the hospital, because the census tract in that area is the highest assessed census tract in the city, meaning that we have some of the highest assessed homes in that area. And the neighbors have been very vocal that they do not want that hospital to be repurposed into some kind of substandard development. So we're really looking at redeveloping that area into the more traditional neighborhood design, whether it's condos or single-family houses, but something to mimic what you see in the surrounding area as it relates to that current hospital.
Sure. I'd add a thing from overall. So those who may not know, the someplacebetter.org or the Someplace Better campaign is a joint effort between the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation and the Sheboygan County Chamber. Prior to launching that campaign to encourage individuals to live here and share the wonderful aspects that we have, was talking to a lot of people. And there were 3 main things that people said about this community in terms that we needed improved. First was the lack of housing. Second was the lack of retail. And third was the perception of the healthcare system, simply because the buildings were old. And with the new $300 million hospital being built off the interstate, I'm hoping that this will go a long way in improving perceptions of people in this area about our health cares. But, quite frankly, we have some of the best healthcare systems, both top rated hospitals, both St. Nick and Aurora. And so, perception is reality a lot of times. And so seeing brand new facilities go up certainly help out with perception of an area.
Hey, question for you guys. With this medical facility being located between Milwaukee and Green Bay, was there any talk about this being a regional medical facility, even though there's the one in Grafton that seems to be the go-to? Was there any talk about this being a specialty or regional hospital?
I don't think so. I think, they honestly recruiting top talent to become a regional is going to be a challenge in this small market. And the fact that they do have the one that's close down the road in Grafton. So, no, I don't think, there was talk internally. They never really had a lot of talk with us about really doing it. I think their more focus was to update their facilities and, have a more state-of-the-art type of hospital than what you see at Memorial. Not that the current Memorial Hospital isn't bad. It's just that over years of adding stuff on and regulation changes and not being able flexible, you've got all these different levels and different areas and old and new, and it's just hard to keep it up to date and to the current standards. So
Switching gears, guys. We're going.
Real quick. Let's go down Taylor and turn right to Acuity, and maybe we can pull over someplace. So anyway, what we missed our opportunity on is, I hope nobody had any questions on Aurora. If you do, speak up. We'll be happy to answer what we can. I will tell you that later this summer, the intersection of Union and Taylor will be under construction as part of the Aurora and the Acuity expansion that's happening. So this area will be shut down for a number of months as a major reconstruction happens in this area. But we're heading south on Taylor right now to Acuity to talk about their current plans. As you all know, that Acuity is in aggressive expansion mode, hiring 100 to 150 employees a year. And their current plan right now that we'll see here shortly when we come over the top of the hill. So just a second, I don't know if you should go in. Yeah, they need to go in. Are they going to let you in? So as we drive by Acuity, you can see major construction happening, and what they're working on is starting off with a parking structure, another parking structure that will be a standalone building. It will be, the first phase of it is 4 stories of parking. That will be 350 stalls, and then ultimately it'll be an 8-story building that'll be over 800 stalls. And then we're right in front of you where these bulldozers and stuff are parked. Their plan is to build a recreational building that will house a basketball courts and a track and those types of things for their employees to be able to do those types of activities as part of working here. So the plan for them is to be 4 million square feet with 2,000 employees. Their next phase of this, after this parking structure is built, will be to build their first 10-story building that will be one of 2 towers on the north and south side of their existing facilities that will house their expansion opportunities and be 10-story towers with employee spaces in it. So anyway, they have very aggressive growth plans. We're very fortunate to have them in the community, and this phase of right now they're itching up to be the city's largest taxpayer. This phase of construction is about another $25 million. In the last 5 years, they've done over $75 million of new development. So if anybody has any questions, we're sorry it's hard to pull a bus over on Taylor Drive and talk more about this, but you can kind of see in a short case what's going on, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Chad, in perspective, you said 2,000 employees. Where is Acuity today with employees?
think in the last teleconference that our financial consultant did, there were about 13 or 1400, maybe 1500.
But I hear probably 400, right? A couple of those 100 are scattered throughout various states that they're selling insurance to.
Yeah, about 1200 in Sheboygan.
One of the very cool things about Acuity being here is two things. One, obviously, they have a huge presence. What I'm always asked from developers, when they hear I'm from Sheboygan County, the first question they ask is, how's Acuity doing? Even though Kohler has basically 10% of our employment, they're just not as visible. So Acuity has really taken over as the face of this area, which is cool to see. The other thing is, too, is that they're noted for being a very good company to work for. I believe second in Forbes magazine. And you hear, when we talk to other major companies in this area, you hear concern over Acuity able to, quite frankly, outclass them in attracting talent. And as a result, we've noticed all the headquarters in this area really raising the bar in terms of benefits, company culture, and everything. And so having such a kind of a prestigious company in our backyard, I think is raising the tide and raising the level of expectations for all the companies across the area. So it's an example of like what great competition can do in an area and how we can all make each other better by learning about what we're doing. So my hat's off to Acuity and everyone there and what they're doing. My hands are off to all the other companies that are changing their company cultures these days. I love seeing that type of competition.
And we always have the world's largest flagpole.
Tallest symbol of freedom.
Tallest symbol of freedom.
Now, one thing we kind of drove right past that we didn't talk too much about was the University of Green Bay Sheboygan campus. This may or may not be aware, but Sheboygan, since like the 1930s, they've always had a community college, UW Sheboygan, that has been taken over by Green Bay. And their intent is to, and they are turning it into a full 4-year satellite campus. They have enrolled 5 majors that you can go get your full 5-year degree in, including mechanical and electrical engineering, business, communication, or journalism. And I forgot quite frankly, I forgot the other ones were. But I would expect WGB to become a bigger and bigger name and a bigger player in this area in the upcoming years. They definitely see Sheboygan as a growth opportunity. And I expect the things from that campus in the next decade, so keep an eye on it.
We're on our en route to our last development opportunity. Just wanted to pause here and ask if anybody has any questions for Chad or Dane. I apologize. I'm holding an iPad and I'm trying to do the best I can and absorb the bumps. So I hope I didn't make anybody sick. Maybe for future we'll recommend Dramamine or something. But for now, thanks for bearing with us. But with that, does anybody have any questions so far? We're on our way right now to the current Vandervaart property. This is located at Broadway Avenue and just about South 14th Street, South Business Drive. This is going to be our last stop on this tour. So just want to say thank you guys for sticking with us. We're about 15 minutes out from our scheduled time. We have not planned this. This is a live run. We didn't know how long this would take, so thank you very much. And it looks like we're going to meet our 2-hour time frame. So bear with us. It'll be maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll be at our next location.
So as we're navigating to our last location, I just wanted to mention that if you've been out on South Business Drive, Highway OK, south of Weeding Creek Road, you've seen a lot of construction over the last 2 years. The city purchased about 147 acres. We expanded our business park known as South Point Enterprise Campus. We put some signage out on the interstate that you see when you're going north and southbound. And we are looking for industrial developments because our current business park, which is around the area of Weeding Creek and South Business Drive, is about 90% full. And given that there was land opportunities to expand out to that south area, it made sense for us to run utilities. So this is the area where you see the new water tower that says visit Sheboygan.com. We spend a lot of money marketing tourism in the Chicago market for the people that are heading to Chicago. And the thought pattern behind it is, why not get some free advertising for those people as they're driving by? So we're probably one of the few people that have put a website link on a water tower, but if it's going to drive people to our community and it's free advertising, we're all in for that. So as we turn right here on Broadway, we're at Broadway and South Business Drive. As you've driven down South Business Drive, you all have seen where Vandervaart has operated a concrete plant and a block masonry plant for a number of years. A developer out of St. Louis has purchased this 17-acre parcel. Vandervaart Construction Products will be moving. Vandervaart Construction Products will be moving their operations out of here to a location in the town of Wilson by the end of the year. And then hopefully in July or August, the developer will start building Sheboygan County's largest housing development of 240 apartment units. So there'll be 4 buildings with underground parking. These apartments will kind of fit in between affordable and market rate rents. On this corner where this old building is right now, this building will be demolished. This area will be cleaned up, and Quick Trip will build in 2021, 2022 a gas station at this location. The gas station will be the largest Quick Trip in the county at 9,000 square feet. But the real reason that Quick Trip is interested in this location is all the Quick Trips that they have along South Business Drive, north to south. I think it's 5 of them. None of them, except for the outside ones, the ones that are in the towns by the interstates, have diesel gas pumps. And they're hearing a lot of pressure from trucking companies within the community that they would like to have the opportunity of getting diesel centrally located. So they will be building a new store as part of this development. This development also will have a park shelter, some community facilities, and the city's goal of expanding our recreational trail along the west side of South Business Drive with this trail. So about it, this is the largest development I can say honestly worked on. It's $47 million. The city is providing $10 for environmental issues, and then over the course of the next 15 years. But it gets a property in the city that's been blighted and underutilized for a very long time, redeveloped, and we're excited about that opportunity.
And that particular developer project is a classic example of, I know marketing works and promotion, I just don't know which half. And so Wisconsin launched a new incentive to encourage some more affordable units. This developer who specializes in more affordable housing units saw that tax credit the state of Wisconsin was offering. Literally just Google multifamilies, communities in Wisconsin, or who needs multifamily in Wisconsin. And because of all the press we've been able to get, found Sheboygan. And that's why they're here. So every time you see a news story, a press release coming out of our office trying to get media, that's the primary reason why, is that people search out communities that are willing to grow and adapt. And as long as we maintain a digital presence out there, we should be able to attract some random developers. So it's kind of an interesting story on how they found us.
So that pretty much wraps up our tour. Again, if anybody has any questions, we would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're going to be turning down Pennsylvania Avenue and heading back to the bus transfer station and signing off here shortly. So now's your opportunity to ask any question you want, except for when are we getting an Olive Garden? Because we're not. Unless you're a third grader in school and you ask Mr. Pelishek during the junior achievement thing when we're getting an Olive Garden in third grade. So mind you, it starts young.
I guess with that, we'll open it up to Dane and Chad for questions. Anything that we haven't covered today, anything that we haven't visited that's of interest to you guys, now's a chance to ask.
Any bites yet on the industrial park, the South Point Industrial Park?
Sorry, I didn't catch the front end of that question. Can you repeat that?
Have there been any bites yet or any interest from companies on the industrial South Park?
There has been. There was interest in a local company and some other local company. We're still working on those. Nothing is concrete at this point. Unfortunately, now that we came into this pandemic, I'm not sure what that's going to be for us, but there's interest in a number of smaller firms, but nothing is concrete and sealed and signed.
Yeah, we've had a little, right now it seems like probably the industrial park that's voting the best is in Sheboygan Falls. And soon we expect Lakeland University. They've already kind of made an announcement they're working towards the business park on their campus out at Lakeland. So it's kind of interesting how this is evolving, but yeah, any development along that interstate certainly helps the perception of this area. So hopefully we'll get some good there soon.
Okay, more questions.
Hey, Derek, Chris had a question. He wanted to know how the Sheboygan bike friendliness stacks up against Milwaukee and Madison.
That's a good question.
It's a really good question. I know the bike friendliness is a designation from, I forgot the official name of it, American Bicycle in Sheboygan County is a bronze level. They have various criteria from the availability of trails to the number of riders to the availability of shops and where to buy stuff. I don't know where the other communities stack up on.
And I think we've got limited funds, so we try to do what we can, and both at the county level and at the city level. Some of the early improvements were done as part of the non-motorized transportation program that the county administered, the $25 million grant. We've gone for other grants, and we try to spend money on it. But frankly, I think, as much as we all understand that that's a quality of life and people want to see it, it doesn't, in our capital improvements planning process, it doesn't stack up very well to repairing streets and buying fire trucks. So those are the challenges we have unless there's some unique grant opportunities for us to go after to continue to expand and promote that.
Chris, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any bike share companies that have been courting Sheboygan.
Well, we worked on a bike share program for the last 3 years, and we were going to go under contract. The city was with B-Cycle, and Derek's group at the parking utility was going to help us as a partner to maintain a bike share program in the downtown. While we were rolling that program out, a local entrepreneur came forward and said that they've got an electric bike that they would like to put on the street, that they are working with a number of hotels in the region to do that. This is a company out of Hingham that said that they are going to test market the Sheboygan and Manitowoc areas this summer with their new program. So we've kind of decided to retract ours and see how their program works, and if they're successful with rolling out their local bike share program out of Sheboygan County, frankly, in the future, we'll probably work with them.
Thanks, guys.
Great question. Any more questions?
I think one of the things that I just want, one of the key takeaways, I'm hoping that all of you get out of here. This area, and even outside of Sheboygan, has got a lot of construction going on across the region. If you go to Fond du Lac, if you go to Oshkosh, you could even go to Green Bay. In terms of how much is going on per the size of the communities, I don't think anyone comes close to us right now in the amount of commercial and urban development in the state of Wisconsin outside of Madison. So I think everyone should be very proud of everything that's happening. The market is going, you see new banks enter the market, financial institutions, and we'll probably see more. Things prior to this COVID-19, I'm going to tell you, Sheboygan County was the fastest growing area in the state of Wisconsin. If we outpaced Madison last year in terms of GDP growth. So we live, quite frankly, in a really cool area, and I hope all of you consider being active leaders in years to come, because we're going to need people to take the helm and get things done. So nothing happens by, you know, I guess one thing I've learned in development is that you have to be proactive. It just doesn't happen. So the city has an outstanding development team. A lot of communities throughout the county have outstanding development teams. We've been trying to do our best to market and promote, and it seems like a lot of gears and a lot of cylinders are firing right now, and that took years to build that momentum. That took years. So just want to say thank you to all of you who are actively trying to be engaged in the community. So thank you.
Chad, any closing comments?
I guess I echo what Dana's saying. You know, it's nice to see young people and younger generations actively involved in the community, and you know, really promoting what we have. You know, we're not a Milwaukee, and we're not a Madison, and we're not a Green Bay. We're our own market, really sandwiched between those two markets. So everything we get, we have to really work hard to get, and we need everybody to be working together to get to that point. So if anybody ever has any interests or has questions or whatever, my door's always open. The development offices in City Hall, drop me a note, give me a call. If you've got ideas, you know, share them with us, because we have people out on the streets trying to gather information and see what can make Sheboygan a better place. And if you travel places and you take pictures and you see things and you say that would be cool to have in Sheboygan, it's not a dumb idea. Send it to us, and we'll see if we can incorporate some of that into it. Now, funding is usually a challenge, but we've got some opportunities to fill those gaps. So I appreciate everyone's time today, but know that we're all in this together, and we need to work to make this a better place.
Cool. Thanks, Chad. All right, guys. Well, I guess that wraps up today. It was great having you join us. Thanks for allowing us to enter your home from our home, or from your office space to our office space. We hope that you enjoyed today's tour, and with that, we hope you stay well and stay engaged in your communities. All right. See ya.